Guys, welcome to the video tutorial. In this video, we will see how to integrate mPulse SDK on Android. So what is this mPulse SDK all about? The mPulse Android SDK monitors all network activity performed by the application and its libraries. Each network request can be monitored individually and its performance data will be sent on a beacon. Network requests will be automatically instrumented as long as they are sent from java.net.url connection. If network requests are made through OKHTTP client or the library that uses it, examples are Picasso, Retrofit. The OKHTTP client needs to be configured to use the mPulse interceptor. The SDK also collects network related statistics and are sent periodically to the server, which can be accessed via portal. The mPulse Android SDK allows you to monitor actions which are distinct user interactions. Actions can be started at any time via the SDK and stopped either programmatically or automatically by the SDK once all the network activity has quieted down. All network requests during the action will be included on the action beacons waterfall. Okay, so let's get started. First step would be to open the Android Studio and create a sample project. In my case, I already have a sample project created. Once you have the sample project open, first step would be to add the dependencies. Open the app level build.gradle and then include the SDK dependencies. You could find the link to the stable release in the integration guide, which I'll be sharing along with this video. This is how you add the dependency. Please note that when I was doing this video, the SDK version was 20.33.6 and this could change going further. Next step would be to open the project level build.gradle and add JCenter. So this is how you add the JCenter to both repositories as well as all project repositories. Next step would be to add the license key. You would have got the access to the source portal, and from there you could go to the tenant or app. If you have not created the app, you can create one as well. This is how your source portal would look like. And once you have created the project, you could see this API key or license key in here. Once done, note this license key and go back to your Android Studio. Once you're back in the project, go to the resources section in the project and create an XML folder with Akamai SDK init XML in it. If you have already have one, you could use, or you could create new folder with Akamai SDK init XML. This is how your Akamai SDK init XML would look like. You could simply copy paste this, or you could even access your, or you could even see the integration guide for the details. Now, this is the license key or the API key that I have already created, or for the app that I have already created. I have already added the same license key for the sample project which I'm showing in here. So once you have added the license key in here, you also need to register the SDK. So for that, go to the manifest file and add these lines. This also indicates that the SDK is registered and also it's auto initialized and need not have to be explicitly initialize the SDK. You also need to add the permissions. We need both internet and access network state permissions to be added. You could find all these details in the integration guide as well. Now, the next step would be to make the API calls. As said earlier, you could use third-party library wrappers to make API calls. It could be retrofit, OKHTP, Picasso for image requests. So in my case, I'm using retrofit to make API calls. I've already prepared API calls using retrofit and I would be using the same here. Now since I'm using retrofit, I'll be adding the wrapper for the same. If you're using any third party apart from retrofit, OKHTP or Picasso, do let us know. We could provide the wrappers for the same. You could see here I am already using an interceptor called mPulse OKHTP app interceptor. One most important thing here is to note the usage of the wrapper to retrofit. This makes sure that all the API calls are going via mPulse. You could see here the usage of the interceptor to my retrofit. What I have done here is on a button click, I'll be making an API call. Let's see how it is done. This method will be called on button click. Now we are done with the integration there. Let's launch the app and see how does it look like. After us launching app, your app would look like this, or this is the sample app that I'm just showing it to you. Now, as I told you earlier, clicking on this button would make a network request or an API call. Let's do that and see the results. You could see that I just made a network call, and if you could look at the logs as well, you could see the beacons being sent to the server. Now we'll wait for the beacon. We might have to wait for a minute or so to see the beacon being sent to the portal. This is how your portal would look like. Now, as I said earlier, we have made whatever the network request or the API call that we make in here, we could see some spikes coming in. You could see a spike in here which was done earlier. As I show you this dashboard, you could also see a spike just popping it up. So this is the request that we just made now, and the spike just popped up. And if you look at the logs, you could see successfully sent one record to server. That means that the impulse integration was successful and the beacon is being successfully sent to the server. If you don't see any spikes in the dashboard, return back to the steps mentioned here or visit the troubleshooting guide provided by the SDK. So this is how you integrate the SDK. Thank you for watching the video. Bye.